Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Hope you've had a fantastic festive season. Considering the current climate of the world, I know it's been tough, but we're here to make some games, which we can do responsibly any day of the week. About a week ago, I got a comment from a member called R. Can you please teach us how to make a typing game like Typing of the Dead? And most videos I find aren't very clear. So here's what we're going to go about creating. At the top right, we have a time. It's going to count down. Every second is going to go down, and then here we have a word that we need to type out. And if we get it wrong, it's going to make a glitchy sound, and eventually when the time runs out, we get a game over. So now I'm going to type it in, and then when we get the word right, we actually get more time, and the word changes. It's random, so yeah, we can get the same word. I think I've got about 30 or so words kind of queued up here. And yes, as you type in the wrong word, you can see you get a 1 second penalty and the word restarts. So I figure that's enough of a mechanic for you guys to extract and try create something fun, perhaps a tribute game to those arcade games of our past. Now before we get into more of the specifics about how we create this mechanic, please make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell notification to be notified about new videos like this. I really do appreciate the support. So without further ado, let's jump into the code. Right, so we're going to start off with a somewhat basic project. I've got all the sounds in here. I didn't want to import them one by one. That can take time. See, there's the glitch sound. There's another glitch sound over here. And we've got some typing sounds. Very similar to the typewriter text effect that I released a little bit ago. And I've also got an empty room over here, room world. Okay, so to kick things off, I'm going to create a controller object. And this object is going to kind of initialize everything. We're going to do a randomize. So we're going to need one of those. And I'm actually going to paste in our global goals. Alright, there they are. Now you're probably wondering why I haven't put this just inside the room itself. Well, actually, that's because of the order in which GameMaker kind of compiles everything and executes it. So for example, if I go in here, I'm going to actually comment out global goals over here. And I'm going to create object controller. And here I'm going to say show debug message. This is quite useful if you want to know the order in which things happen. So here I'm going to say controller. And then I'm going to go into room world. Let's bring in that controller. Let's go into our creation code. And here I'm going to say show debug message. And I'm going to say room. Right? So now that we've got a debug in the creation code of room world, as well as a debug in the create event of the controller, let's see which one prints to the output window or the output console first. Okay. So there you see that controller has logged before room. If those global goals were only initialized in the room, we wouldn't have access, and we're going to get, like array problems, because this variable, this global variable, wouldn't exist. So that's why I'm doing it this way. I'm going to go back to this room and clear that. We don't actually have to do anything inside the room other than put the objects there. It's a nice little experiment. Okay, so we randomize the seed. This is just for the entire game. And then we have our global goals over there. Got quite a number of them. We shouldn't really get the same one twice, but it happens. Okay, so the controller is in our room. We need that. Then I'm going to create a script. Create, and I'm going to say script. This is going to be called scr_get_random_goal over there. And it's going to quite straightforwardly just give us a new goal if we need one. So I'm going to say var I equals iRandomRange. I'm going to say starting at 0 and going to array length global.goals -1. Okay, very good. So that should select a random integer, and we can return global.goals I. So that'll just pick the word in that array of goals that's for that integer. Next up, let's create an object called object goal, and This object, let's put it in the room so we don't forget. This object is going to manage everything from displaying the current goal, and the goal is going to be a word to type. It's going to display what the user has typed. It's going to keep track of time, incrementing that time and knowing when it's game over. All right, so we're going to create over here. We're going to say goal equals SCR get random goal. So that's fun. It's going to give us a random goal for the bat. That's why. So I extracted some code into this script because we can actually call this when the user successfully types in the word, so we need to get another word. Then I'm going to set the index to 0 because this is the current key that the user has typed. The index is going to track which character of the goal the user is trying to attempt next. We got loading as false. So this is going to be the pause between getting one word correct and it loading up the next one. And we also have a game over, which is false. And we're going to set our time to 10 seconds. And then we're going to kick off an alarm every 1 second. And that alarm is going to decrease our time by 1 second. And we're going to say, well, if time is less than or equal to 0, well then firstly time is equal to 0, and also we are game over. However, if we're not game over, then I'm just going to call this alarm again in the next second. Quite straightforward. That's all it does. And now let's go and create a draw event. I'm going to say draw set color. We're going to do C white. I'm going to say draw. This is going to draw the time, by the way. Draw set H alignment. I want to do FA right, and we're going to draw text. Let's draw to the far right of the screen as we saw in the demo, and it's going to be the time which we have to stringify. Alright, so we do have that in the room. Let's fire this up and we should see the time tick down 1 every second until it gets to 0, and then it should stop. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and stop. You see, now that would be game over. At this point in time, game over is set to true. Okay, back to our game. Next up, let's manage actually capturing keys that the user is pressing. And to do that, we're going to add an event. It's going to be a key pressed event, and we're going to go to any key. So whenever you're typing on the keyboard, this event's going to fire out. If you type in your name, it's going to fire out for every keystroke in your name. Firstly, we don't care about this event if we're loading or if it's game over. So we're just going to jump out of that. We're going to tell it to return. Now we want to say, well, what if we actually match the string correctly? I'm going to say string lower, just a bit of a habit to make sure that we're doing a match that's on lower cases. And we're going to get the character value of the keyboard last key, and we're going to see if that equals the character at of our goal index plus 1. Okay, so in here it means match. Otherwise we don't match. So for example, if the word was zombie, and if we typed an F, it would go into the else. If we typed a G, it would go into the else. If we typed a Z, it would go into the if. And you see, it'll go in here, and that'll be a match. It'll say, hey, this is the first character we're coming in. We've typed the right character because it matches this. This is the index where we are at. And therefore, we're going to increment index by 1, saying, okay, cool, you've got the Z. Now you're looking at the O. And then we'll say again, then if we go O, we'll go into the if. Index will go up by 1, and then it'll go to the M and the B until we've gone all the way through all the indexes, and the game can officially say that the player has successfully typed the word. If at any point in time the user goes into the else or types something else, we're going to reset back to the beginning and they've got to try again. So in this game, we're going to say that mistakes are quite bad. If you don't want that kind of mechanic, just don't put in the else. It's that simple. You can always just tell the user to restart, and the user can just restart from wherever they got it wrong. In that case, eventually, I suppose they could just mash the entire keyboard, and then they would eventually type out the word. as it would ignore incorrect answers. But in this game, we're going to penalize the user for that by decreasing their time if it goes into the else eventually, which will lead to game over. So on our match, we want to say var snd equals choose. We're going to choose a nice sound for typing. Type 2 snd type. I think I've got about 3 of these. There they are. Okay, so it's going to choose one of those. And we're going to say audio play sound snd. We want to give it full priority and we don't want it to loop. Alright, fantastic. Then I want to increment the index. And now we need to say, okay, well, what if we're at the E of zombie? What happens if they've gone through the ZOMBI and they're here now? The next character of this index that they're matching is the E. Well, here we got to say, well, if it is that, so if index is equal to the length of the string, that is the goal. And I'm going to need another one of these. Then we want to play audio, play sound. We want to play that victory sound or the success sound. We want to give it full priority and we don't want it to loop. Also, we want to say loading is true because we want to give it time to play that sound. I think it's about a second or two. I think we're going to set it to about a second. It should be good enough. And then it'll load up the next word automatically. So we're going to say room speed times 1 second, time plus equals 10. So the benefit of getting it right quickly is that you get more time. So if you spend, you know, like 8 seconds figuring out the word, how to type it correctly in the sequence without mistakes, then you're guaranteed to get that time back and then even some more. So that's kind of how this mechanic benefits the user, getting the words correct as quickly as possible. Let's go and create that event of alarm 0 just over here so we know we shouldn't forget. Back to any key. Let's say else. What happens if the user types in a part of the word but the character that's supposed to match the index of where they are is incorrect? So if it was the first index and they were supposed to type in a Z or a Z for zombie and they type in a Y or a P or a T or an O or any other key on the keyboard that isn't, you know, the Z, then we're going to say, well, let's choose a sound that is one of those glitch sounds. And I got quite a few of these. I grabbed them from, I think it was YouTube. There was a compilation of them, so I kind of snipped them out, modified them a little to fit perfectly for this game. Oops. We want number 4, and we want to do snd glitch 5. Fantastic. And then again, we want to do the same kind of thing. So let's grab that and paste it in here. Play that sound. We want to set index back to 0 because now we're saying you have to restart. So that restarts the index to 0. Also, time penalty of -1 second. And this is where we say, well, if time is 0, game over equals true. Now technically what we could do is we could decrease time over here and then just let alarm 1 do the magic over there. But I want to be more explicit about what it means. So in the moment right over here we're saying, you know, if time is, actually let's do less than or equal to 0, we're going to go straight game over here, which would actually prevent alarm 1 from doing that next iteration. But that's okay. Okay, back to alarm 0. Now this is the guy that's actually going to get another goal, and you'll see that what we're typing here is very similar. I'm actually going to grab it. It's these 3 lines: goal, index, and loading. Gets new goal, sets the index to 0, and shows that we're no longer loading. So that happens again, remember, when it's the last character, we've got it right, of the string. That was a match. Now we're going to go back to our draw event. We're going to have to get a little bit creative with this thing because we're drawing a string character by character. I suppose there are many ways we can do this. For example, we could detect that the user has input the correct character and then take that character and append it to a string, which we then draw, and it'll build that up so long as we left a line or something. You can do that. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ultimately have 2 loops, one above each other. The first one is just going to draw out the word, and I'm going to space out the letters a bit, which is quite nice. And then the second for loop is just going to draw out the word, but as many characters as the users got correctly, also spacing it out the same way. So in that sense, as we saw in the demo, the characters actually line up quite nicely. There's a bit of space between all of them, and we don't really have to touch any sort of font manipulation. So let's start by doing some alignment here. I'm going to say FA center on the horizontal and draw set V line. Here we're going to say FA middle, and again, this is purely supplementary. I mean, for us to see what we've typed, you're more than welcome to kind of get creative with this. And if you're doing like a typing of the dead kind of situation, the goal is going to be attached to maybe a moving object, so you'd be using like its current x coordinate and so on more actively than what I'm doing here. So also I'm going to offset by half of the characters to center the word a bit. So I'm just going to say XX equals minus seal string, let's see, string length. Here we're going to say goal divided by 2 times by 10, which is the kind of increment I'm going to be doing per character. And then here we're going to say var I equals 1, I is less than string length goal, and I want to say plus 1, I plus plus. Draw set color C white. We're just going to draw the goal in white. Then we're going to draw text. I'm going to put this in the center of the room. Plus XX room height divided by 2. Then we can use string char at goal and I and increment x by 10. Okay, then let's go ahead and put that out again. So this is basically the characters for the entire goal, right? So this is not what the user has typed out. This is what they are aiming to go for. The second loop over here, this is what the users actually typed out. So again, I'm just going to offset by the entire thing. This will help all the letters line up. Then over here, I've got var I equals 1. I is less than, instead of all this, I'm going to have index. So I is less than what they're currently typing. We're going to draw set color. I'm going to say C red over here. C red. Then again, room width divided by 2 plus XX. Room height divided by 2. I'm actually going to put this slightly lower, so plus 20. And then we have string char at goal I. And again, incrementing by 10. Now I wrap this in a not game over. Obviously, if it is game over, then don't worry about drawing what they're doing. Rather draw, let's draw, actually I want to get draw set color white. We're going to draw a game over, press spacebar to restart kind of thing. I'm just going to center that on the screen, game over. And below that, we're going to say, that's plus 25 over here. Press space to restart. Fantastic. So just to recap, this we're just using to make sure our goal and what we're typing aligns up. This for loop is actually the goal we're going for. So we're printing it out in white text. This represents how far we've actually typed over here. And we are showing it in red text. Let's not forget that we need the key pressed space to say if game over, game restart. Just like that. So let's go ahead and fire this up. Let's see if we have any errors. Maybe we can tackle them. Maybe we don't have errors. Who knows? Things happen. Let's see. Stocking 8, 7. That's working. Oh, see, something's wrong there. It's one character behind. Okay, that's a bit of an issue. Let's go back to our goal object. We need to go into this key pressed any event. I'd say that it's probably in here. But actually what was happening is I was typing in the right key, but it was just drawing incorrectly. So it's actually probably a draw problem, which is okay. I mean, I expected this draw is a little bit more complex than I would have liked it to go for. I do invite you to come up with more elegant solutions to draw out the characters. I think it comes down to the alignment of the word. But then again, you might want to, as in different versions of the Typing of the Dead, there's actually some new games released as recently as like 2013, which kind of encapsulate that vibe. And what they have is they have the word, and as the user types the word, it highlights that part of the word in a different character. And there's actually no reason why you couldn't. It could actually use this loop approach to do that too, just only drawing parts of the word that they have already typed in, and in the remainder of the word you just draw in white, for example. Now, dealing with indexes and characters and string char add can be tricky. I've actually seen the problem is +1 over here. Always have to add that +1. I think that's what was missing. If I play this now, I think we should actually get a better response. Okay, 9, 8, 7, H, I, another character, H. There's an error, HILL, just in time. Got an extra 10 seconds, stocking. Fantastic, that's good. Spoil, and then I'm going to put in a J. It's an error. If I just mash the keyboard, you can see eventually game over, press space to restart. Now, this is fantastic if you want to kind of get your typing going. Oops. Which is really cool, and attach this to any kind of graphics that you want. This is, in a nutshell, the mechanic behind it. So I hope you found this tutorial educational and helpful. Please feel free to comment, rate, and subscribe. All the resources for this will be in the description. I'm going to put them out on my Patreon. Even the glitch sounds, I know it can be a little difficult to reverse engineer them outside of a GameMaker project, so I'm going to put them on the side so you can use them in any games that you want. Please remember to subscribe for more great videos just like this, and head over to my Patreon. I really do appreciate your support. So until next time, happy coding, and I'll see you then.